I love Surprise Stadium so much. It is one of my favorite parks in the Cactus League that I've been to yet. It has a really cool retro feel. The way that there's like a little bit of an upper deck with like in the grandstand that like overhangs, and it has kind of this retro feel because it goes out kind of like how how old stadiums, how the upper levels would go out and overhang the upper level or the lower levels, so they're kind of like terraced, kind of like this, right? If you're on watch on YouTube, you can see it maybe kind of. But anyway, because now when you have an upper level, it's set back. They're offset, right? So you cannot get a seat in the upper level and be close to the field. The old Tiger Stadium was like that, where it would actually overhang in the outfield just a little bit in the upper deck. But anyway, this has that kind of feel. And also the other thing I love about it has a nice wide concourse and and there's quite a bit of shade at this stadium, but we'll get there in just a little bit. Okay, so ticket prices. I feel like Surprise is reasonable for spring training because I don't want to be paying regular season prices going to a spring training game. And a lot of people I feel like have that issue too because the starters are gone if they're playing at all are gone by the sixth inning at the latest typically. It's not uncommon to see the starters check out after the third, fourth, or fifth inning, right? And so you don't want to be paying regular season prices to get into a spring training game. And I feel like Surprise is pretty reasonable with their pricing. We sat behind the third base dugout and I want to say we paid $32 a ticket, something like that. It was reasonable. We had great seats, absolutely killer seats. We were like 6 rows up from the dugout. It was awesome. It was a great spot to sit. Parking is great. They have a parking lot attached to the stadium where you can park and it's really big too. And then if that parking lot fills up, they have an overflow grassy field just beyond. You're not ever going to walk more than I don't think like a quarter of a mile to get to the stadium from the parking lot. And that's like if you're parked in the way back, right? Like we parked pretty close to the front and got a pretty good spot. And we got there probably 45 minutes before the game started was all. So one thing that was kind of funny about the stadium, about the parking though, was that we were watching the Mariners and the Royals. Sorry, this is where the Rangers and the Royals play. The game we were watching was the Mariners and the Royals, and one of the Mariners low-level minor leaguers who was going to be in the dugout during the game was just walking through the parking lot. He just parked in the regular general admission parking lot instead of the players' lot, and he's walking through the parking lot with his big bag over his shoulder, wearing full uniform and everything. It was kind of funny. So parking is great, and it's free. You're not paying for parking there, which I love. Customer experience getting through the door, the staff there was super friendly. Surprise is mostly a retirement community, so you're going to get a lot of. I mean, most of these stadiums you pretty much have retirees working security and working as ushers at these stadiums, and so but they're friendly people. They were really great. Greeted you with a smile as you walked up and walked through the metal detector and scanned your ticket and everything. They were super friendly. The team store, they have 3 team stores. Their main team store is behind home plate, very, very small, just like this big. And it's pretty much mostly what you're going to find there is general Cactus League stuff, t-shirts, sweatshirts, random things. Like they had Cactus League cups and stuff like that. That's what you're going to find there. Down the third base side, I want to say was the Royals side. Yeah, because that's the Royals dugout. Down the third base side, they had a tent set up where they had a bigger team store specifically for Royal stuff. Had the same thing down the first base side for the Rangers, where it was a tent set up with that. And then out past center field, outside the gate, actually, they had a really, really, really tiny team store, almost like they call it a team closet. Very, very small. We actually got some emergency sunscreen there a few years ago. Paid $6 for something this big. So bring your sunscreen with you when you go. Fan experience at Surprise Stadium is very good. It's big enough that you feel like you're at a legitimate ballpark, but it's small enough that there's not a bad seat. Not a bad seat in this place. They have them, you can see here down the lines in the outfield, the way that they have it kind of turns. They have the seats turned back toward the field when you get down towards the foul pole, which is awesome because if you're sitting out there, you still feel like you're right on top of the field. And their berm is at a really steep angle so that when you're sitting on the berm, you're not worried about the people in front of you, which is an issue some places. Um, but you can see out over the field, and it's almost like stadium seating on the berm on the grass. So that's kind of a cool thing. Food, or sorry, yeah, food. Um, we didn't actually get a whole lot of food at Surprise Stadium. They have a lot of options. They had food trucks there and everything down the lines. They didn't have a whole lot as far as general concessions. But the pretzel we got was reasonably priced. I'll tell you that. So, but there were a lot of food truck options primarily rather than concessions, and there are a few stadiums that are like that. Like I said, seating outstanding. It was great. They actually have a little bit bigger seats, a little kind of you have a little bit more elbow room when you're sitting there in those seats. Shade was really good. We were shaded by the second inning, sitting on the third base side. So if you want to sit in the shade, sit on the third base side because the sun will be going behind you behind the grandstand rather than worrying about it trying to go with you if you're sitting on the first base side rather than having to go to your left. Um, and like I said, you're going to want shade even in March in Arizona. Overall ballpark feel, I love it. Like I said, retro feel. It's a super cool stadium. It's a lot of fun. Getting out of the parking lot was super easy. I think there were only like 2 or 3 exits, but it didn't feel like I had to wind and play snake to get out. We just kind of went with it, right? You just back out and go. And there was a line that we got into really quick and really easily. I don't like to leave games early because I'm paying to go to the game. I want to watch the whole game. So I'm never going to leave early to beat traffic. So I'm always sitting in the thick of it. We got out of Surprise super fast. So you don't need to worry about traffic when you're at Surprise Stadium.